Rob Garland. Welcome to the fourth episode in this motivation and practice YouTube series. And as I said at the start of the other episodes, this is a little different to the kind of guitar lessons I usually do in that I'm not playing guitar in these lessons. This is more, trying to pass on some ideas to keep you motivated and get you fired up about picking up your guitar. A friend of mine asked me a while ago if I celebrate small victories. And when he said that, I really had to stop and think about what he meant. It occurred to me that in terms of my own personal career, I spent so much time looking forward and pushing forward and moving from one thing to the next thing that I rarely take time to recognize achievements or accomplishments, So I'd like to address this idea of recognizing and celebrating small victories as it pertains to our learning of the guitar. What is a small victory? Well, victories on the instrument aren't small at all. Some are downright massive as far as I'm concerned. Smoothing out and defining your vibrato, like I was talking about in the last video, which is a huge part of finding your voice on the instrument. That's hardly a small victory, but let's not worry about the semantics of the size of the victory, right? The point is to be positive and to increase your momentum for going forward by taking a moment and recognizing an accomplishment. I should also say that the British are not known for celebrating any kind of victory, be it small or big. We tend to come from more of a get your head down, stop talking, get on with it mentality. Just don't complain, all right? Here are some steps to celebrate small victories. Identify something that you can do on the instrument today that you could not do a year ago. Now just think about that for a second. What's something you take for granted today when you pick up the guitar and play it that a year ago you could not do? So let's think about some examples of that. Maybe you have a song memorized now that you just couldn't remember for the longest time. Maybe now you're able to play that song without looking at a chord chart, with a band or a jam track or whatever. Maybe now you feel like you know the major scale shapes. If you've been reading my free weekly guitar lesson emails, I should hope you know those major scale shapes by now. Maybe you feel like you have the ability to play caged chords all over the neck, triads all over the neck, and not feel like when you see a chord on a chart, you get stuck anymore into just a couple of shapes. Maybe now you see that the small triads were inside the bigger caged forms all along, and it's kind of opened up the fretboard for you. Maybe now you feel like your bending has improved versus a year ago. Are you able to bend with good intonation and keep your note in tune? Can you add vibrato to your bend? Have you developed that vibrato further? Do you understand the sound of a mode? Do you understand that when you hear the sound of a sharp 4 or a sharp 11, that's a Lydian sound, and does it immediately give you that sound of, oh yeah, that's kind of that Frank Zappa kind of sound, or that Joe Satriani Flying in a Blue Dream, or that Fleetwood Mac Dreams, or that Tom Petty, whatever that Tom Petty song is called. that's Lydian. You get my point, right? Maybe you feel you can strum chords in time with a metronome, whereas before you would rush or you would fall behind the beat. Maybe you now feel like you have a better grasp of some music theory, how chords are made, how scales are harmonized into songs, chord progression, whatever it is. Just take a moment and reflect that a year ago, 6 months ago, whatever, you couldn't do that. Now you can. That is a small victory on the instrument. Remember the steps you took to make this possible. This is important too. Maybe you played that song that you were trying to memorize 50 times. Maybe you worked on your picking technique every day with a metronome. Maybe you listened back to your playing. Maybe I'm always telling students, record yourself, listen back with a critical ear. Maybe you were able to do that and heard something that you wanted to change, and now you've changed it. Maybe you've learned to, did you learn to internalize the pulse of the metronome? That's what it took to improve your rhythm playing. So as well as taking a moment to reflect on what it is you can now do that you couldn't do, reflect on what you did to get to that point so that you could now do what you couldn't do. Contemplate the challenges you had to overcome and acknowledge your effort as to what it took to achieve that small victory. Perhaps it wasn't a physical challenge on the instrument so much as a time management victory. Maybe you think about how you managed to carve out that 25 minutes every day despite work and family commitments. And maybe you said, look, every day I'm going to do this, 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to spend 25 minutes doing this, even though it might have been easier to just kind of veg out on the couch. Maybe you combine the two. Maybe you were running that scale while you were vegged out on the couch. Whatever it takes, right? As I said in the last video as well, we think about practicing the guitar versus playing the guitar. Practice has a negative connotation. Play brings joy, right? So look forward to having that 25 minutes or whatever it is to play the guitar. Reflect on how this new skill you've acquired, or skills, has since developed in ways that you've been able to utilize in the real world. This one's really important, right? If you spent all that time working on caged chords, and maybe you get together and jam with friends, and maybe in the past you've both been playing the same chord voicings, and suddenly you were able to say, oh, I know what the chords are, and play them up the neck and complement what another guitar player or keyboard player was doing. That's a great thing. That's real life application, and that's going to make you feel good. All right. Maybe you heard a song on the radio. Maybe you've been working on a dominant seventh chord voicing. Really getting it under your fingers. Maybe you heard a song on the radio, and you heard that was an E7, and you go, oh yeah, Born on the Bayou. That's an E7. I know that chord. That's the chord I was working on. Meaning the connection between your fingers and your ears, ear training, is improving. That in itself is a victory worth celebrating. So pause for a moment, celebrate, give yourself a high five, if that's possible. And then you got to think about, now I want to find a new challenge. All right. Now it could be something that builds on one of the previous victories, right? But you want to keep it going, keep the momentum going, because with every small victory that you acknowledge, you're building confidence and you're keeping the momentum going. All right. Now, why am I asking you to celebrate small victories at all? It's very easy to become critical of ourselves. I know this, right? Consider all the negativity in the world today, as well as taking a moment to celebrate your own small victories. Why not compliment others on their accomplishments as well? And this goes back to episode 1 of this series. Music is not a competition, all right? We're all in this together. So by, reaching out to fellow musicians, and and you don't have to keep heaping praise on people that you don't think are worthy, right? Just try to find a positive thing that somebody does that you think is interesting, and you could see they've worked on and overcome a challenge maybe, and compliment them on their small victory. Who knows? Maybe they'll do the same for you down the line. We pass this stuff forward, okay? So I just want you to enjoy the process. Remember, playing a musical instrument should be enjoyable and an emotional experience, okay? Find challenges that inspire you, and look forward to celebrating your next small victory. Okay, thanks for watching this episode. I hope you've watched the other episodes. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comments, suggestions, welcome as always. Now go work on your next challenge and celebrate some more victories. Cheers.